Bim.
I said, where you going, dude? To get some milk and cookies.
Welcome to Our Thoughts, Your Thoughts, a show where we talk about the things you want to talk about.
And the things you don't want to talk about. So we're going to talk about our mayor being very open on Twitter over the last few days. We're also going to talk about Jay-Z and his new venture with the NFL. In addition to that, we're also going to be talking about sequels of movies.
Yeah.
The best, the worst that we've seen because of some new developments that we've heard about in the news. And finally, we're going to be talking about threesomes.
Tell your friends to get with my friends.
But this is inspired because T-Pain had an interview on The Breakfast Club, and he had some very interesting things to say.
Awesome.
So we're going to be talking about that from different angles. See what I said there? Threesome, different angles. Dad jokes.
Yeah.
Well, no, not really dad jokes. Okay, maybe dad jokes.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely
if it's
dad
corny
jokes.
and you got kids, it's a dad joke. Hey, how do you like what's in front of you?
It's laced with cocaine. For sure.
These are not Timbits.
What are
They're
they?
called puffs. Like, the only way I can really explain it is imagine if they took beaver tails and made them into the size and shape of a Timbit. That's what that is.
Well, initially when you said puffs, I was like, Canada being all like legal and stuff now, I thought these were going to be edible something, and I was like, man, that's a lot. But
Like legal puffs.
legal puffs.
Yeah. No, these are legal.
I'm good with that too.
Definitely should be illegal. So,
For those who have diabetes.
I picked those up in Montreal. I've never heard of those, but it seems to be a big thing there, man.
I can see why.
Yeah.
I can see why. So what's your song of the week?
The song of the week goes with the theme of our topic today, main topic.
Which okay.
It's by T-Pain.
Okay.
I'm in love with a stripper.
I'm in love with a stripper. She poppin', she rollin', she rollin'. She climbing that molding.
Great song. Great song. Great song. Great song. Great song.
Yeah.
Great song.
So it's a song that talks about a guy really being honest with himself about who he likes, who he wants to be with. Goes to this club, this gentleman's club, and there's this one particular girl that for some reason he wants to bring her to mom.
For some reason.
Fair.
Fair.
Yeah. But for some reason, every other dude in the club is trying to do the same thing.
I kind of laugh at the fact that strip clubs are called gentlemen's clubs. There's nothing gentlemanly about a gentleman's club, which is pretty funny.
Dude, I remember back in high school and stuff, some of my friends and I, we would go to one of those gentlemen's club. Dude, as hyped as it is, I find it to be one of the coldest places I've ever been. Like one of the coldest, almost soulless places out there. It's just weird. It's like seeing cattle being up on display, man. I don't know. I've never really been a huge fan of.
Me
of
neither.
that.
I went for a bachelor party once.
Yeah, I think I went to one for a bachelor party as well, but that was a long time ago.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Me too. But it was funny because there was one of the young ladies that came and stood next to me and was like, "Hey, how are you?" And I just pulled out a $5 bill and I said, please go away. Like you said, man, it is a cool place. And at the same time, I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, man, that's someone's daughter or someone's mama. So, again, to each his own.
Exactly.
But just for me personally, I was like, So, I can say in my life, I think I've been to a strip club maybe 5-6 times in my life. I think that's a pretty good clip for being, over 35.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a strippy with your girl, or one of your girls at a particular time?
No, never. Have you? You have. That would be interesting. I have no real issues with it. Like, I'm going home with my wife, so it doesn't really matter to me. But maybe for the experience, I don't know.
But it was a girl that said she's never seen a strip club and she wanted to go. We went, and honestly, it just made me think differently about her after that.
Wow.
It sounds weird, but yeah,
Okay.
it's not my place.
Fair enough. So, speaking of girls, my song of the week is called Señorita by Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello.
I love it when you call me señorita. I wish I could pretend I did.
Now, you would think that a song like that is more of a teeny bopper song, but I don't know, man. There's a vibe to that song that just... maybe it's also me just trying to hold on to summer because it's got that kind of vibe, but it's a nice joint. And I think Shawn Mendes is coming to Ottawa later on this year, so...
Isn't Shawn Mendes Canadian?
Mm-hmm. That's why I respect, too. So, he's very, very talented. Very, very talented.
So, in the car, we over the weekend, we took a road trip to Montreal, like I said. This is where we got the puffs. And on the way back, we were playing some of the old school hip-hop stuff I loved, right? Like, I had the kids in the back. They were listening to Cypress Hill, Insane Membrane, all sorts of stuff that I'm like, why am I doing this? I shouldn't let them listen to. But the highlight was Summertime by Will Smith. Because they're on that Fresh Prince tip right now. Everything Will Smith does is golden to them. So they love that.
That's a good show for kids to like, though.
I don't know. Because my son came and asked me, what is the Playboy Mansion?
Oh, I forgot about that episode.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But my wife
It's a place where all your dreams could come true. No, I'm just
that's
playing.
a horrible thing to tell a kid.
No, I'm being sarcastic. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Freaking brothel. No,
basically.
Man. Yeah, exactly.
Because remember the episode where Hillary becomes a Playboy playmate? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's messed up, man.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. We have 7 sons, so we're good. We're good. The mayor of our fair city, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, the honorable they call Jim Watson. So he just came out. Okay, he just came out, and
came out of what?
I don't even know. I guess the closet. But anyway, he basically declared himself to be a homosexual on social media. Now, my first thought when I saw that was, I thought he came out 20 years ago.
I understand you were the first Ottawa mayor to march in Pride?
That's right, yeah. When I was mayor back in the 1990s.
That was, like, literally, I was like, oh, okay. All right, he came out now. But I think my buddy Kev had, like, the perfect comment when we were talking about it, like, we have a message board. And I said, hey, by the way, guys, the mayor just came out. And then he said, yeah, I know. And in other news, water is wet. True. But what did you think when you heard about this?
So I read the article that the biggest takeaway I got is similar to what Kevin said. There's a quote where he says, basically, my friends and family, I suspected that my friends and family always knew that I was gay, but they respected and loved me enough not to put me through that line of questioning, you know? And but if you read that article, it's so interesting. It's very deep and multi-leveled.
These are not going to last, but continue.
It's very deep and multi-leveled, and for someone like him to have such a successful career, it seemed like he had to sacrifice a lot because of to get to where he wants to be. Sacrifice a lot of his personal freedoms, I guess, because there's a moment where he mentions that his friends that are gay have moved on and had successful, great relationships and done a lot of stuff together, and so and his straight friends, you know, have had kids, and they have a lifestyle where they go to soccer practice and all sorts of stuff regular folks in quote do. But he said he's stuck in this weird situation where he doesn't have any of those things. You know,
that's tough.
It's very tough, man. So I feel for him, and I think I feel for him a lot more than I would when I was a little bit younger, because I got kids, right? What if one of my children or anybody close to me comes out? What are you gonna do? I think having kids have made me extremely empathetic towards people, period. You know, and I would hate for my kid to live a life where to live 40 years in a closet, especially 40 years in the public eye.
He's 40 years old?
No, he's over 40.
God damn, I was gonna say, I was gonna say like he's been aged.
No, dude, been old now.
Okay.
But I feel like I would hate for my kid or someone close to me to live a life where he has to live a double life and not go after the things that they probably consider that makes them really happy. So I feel for him when it comes to that. What are your thoughts?
I agree with everything you said. Like it's tough. Like he should have came out, years before. Because that's the thing, man. Like I grew up in the church, and all I know is that based on what I learned in church, they just say, love everybody. I'm not gonna judge anybody. Love everybody. That's the message. So, if that's the lifestyle he wants to choose, he shouldn't live, in fear or whatever. Like, do what you got to do. I may see your lifestyle and not understand it, but doesn't mean I'm gonna hate you for it. Like, whatever, do you. But the more important question is, when's the O train gonna be ready? That's all I want to know. Okay.
Are you saying that this is a distraction?
Well, kind of, because we already knew.
But we already knew that the O train is not happening either.
Yeah, that's true. Every time I think of the O train, I just think of that Simpsons episode where they're like, that's all I think of.
Scam.
That's all I think of every time I hear O train. I'm like, shouldn't this thing have been done like 2 years ago? But we're still talking about it now. Anyhow,
in Hawaii, they have the same situation, except it's 9 years delayed.
Goodness gracious.
The infrastructure is there, just not complete.
Monorail. Oh man. Anyway, speaking of Simpsons TV, all that stuff, there's been a news story that's saying that Eddie Murphy and a bunch of other actors have arrived in, I think is it Georgia? I'm not sure where it is, but they're starting to film Coming to America 2. Okay, Coming to America is in my top 3 in terms of. And again, if you're Haitian, you understand this. I really like Coming to America, but I really love Coming to America on TVA.
And France and New York.
Right? On TVA on Christmas. That's really when I like to watch Coming to America. But my one fear is that it's going to be horrible. Right? So when that started to, and we were having this conversation, and it started to make us think, what are some of the best sequels and some of the worst sequels that we've seen?
So I'll go right away.
Okay, go for it.
One of the best number 2 movies I've ever seen is Godfather 2.
Agreed.
Like Godfather 1 and 2, they just go together. It seems like it's just one movie, right? But the worst is Godfather 3. It had no business being alive. Like, it was just bad. It was years later, different times. Like, they go from being like in the 70s, because Godfather 2 ended in the late 60s, early 70s, and then they went straight into the late 80s, early 90s. Like, it just was horrible. And by that time, Al Pacino was felt already drugged up from all his cocaine that he sniffed in Scarface and all that stuff. So that movie wasn't good. But Godfather 2 was one of the best movies I've ever seen.
So do you think that sequels tend to be worse if they don't respect some type of time limit?
No, because another great example of a sequel, I don't know if it's necessarily a sequel, but it just feels like a sequel, was remember Desperado with Antonio Banderas?
Salma Hayek.
Yeah. They came out years later with a sequel called
Once Upon a
Time in Mexico.
Was that a sequel or a prequel?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter to me. Sequel, prequel. I think it's all relative. It's all part of this conversation. I think I love Once Upon a Time in Mexico even better than Desperado.
Really?
Yeah, I watched that movie like 10,000 times. It was a beautiful movie. It was they took Desperado like 10 levels deeper and 10 levels higher with Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and they added what's his name, Johnny Depp to the cast.
Yeah.
It was great. I love that.
Yeah. In terms of part 2s, I really like Shrek 2.
Really?
It was pretty good.
What was it about again?
I don't even remember. I just remember that it was better. That's all I remember. But in terms of worst, they should never have made. Actually, there's 2 of them. Super Troopers 2 was horrible. I love stupid movies. Super Trooper 1 is a classic. It's a cult classic. Super Troopers 2 should never have been made, ever. And the other one was there's some movies like you should just leave it as the original, and then not make a sequel. It's already hit its peak. Like, don't make another one.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think for movies to do well as a group, you have to start with a vision for all of them in the first place.
Yeah.
I think if you have a vision, kind of like Godfather 1 and 2, you could tell they were made to be one movie. It's just we're too long to be spread out.
Dumb and Dumber.
Oh,
The sequel. Oh,
Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumberer. So stupid. There was one good scene with Bob Saget when he was losing his mind, saying "There's shit everywhere."
Oh yeah, that was the first time we've seen Bob Saget acting like the real man, not Full House.
That movie was awful.
Yo, by the way, I think I'm gonna eat this last one.
Go for it, man. I don't know how many I ate.
Yeah, you ate a lot.
I did.
Yeah.
Don't feel some type of way, yo.
And these are not even like the freshest.
I know.
Like if you go to Montreal, Google Mr. Puff. They're everywhere.
It's already in my phone. That is crazy.
Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber
Bad.
2.
Dumb and Dumber was really, really bad. But anyway, I guess really the big thing is I just hope Coming to America is not awful. If it's awful, it's going to be very, very sad.
It depends who's writing it.
But I think they said Kevin Hart's involved.
I'm not. Like that's already bad for
You're
me.
like, I'm done. I'm already done.
If Eddie Murphy writes it, we're good.
True. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall. If they write it, then we're good.
Because Eddie Murphy wrote that movie. He wrote it.
Didn't you write it with Arsenio Hall?
I guess so. But there's another movie that really sucked. Home Alone 3. I saw it recently, like last year with the kids. It was bad.
The person who had that idea should have gotten shot.
Like I think the movie house just wanted to make money off of the name.
So the M. Night Shyamalan effect. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what the M. Night Shyamalan effect, it's M. Night Shyamalan was the director of movies like The Sixth Sense, Signs, etc. And he made some bad movies afterwards, but people still went to pay money because basically of his name. Like Lady in the Water. What the hell was that?
I didn't see
The
it.
Village. What was the...
I think I saw The Village.
I saw The Village, and when I left the theater, I remember I watched it in Florida. I was like, I can't get those hours in my life back, man.
Yeah.
They're already gone.
But you know what? The people who do succeed, who do have the biggest successes, have bagfuls of failure. That propels them that way.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's
So,
true. That's true.
It's like it has to be forgiven.
Yeah, we document the successes, but step on the failures. So
Yeah.
absolutely, I get that.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of failures, do you think that this Jay-Z NFL partnership is doomed to fail? And in addition to that, do you think that Jay-Z sold out black folks by entering in this partnership?
So I think with your first question, I think you got to look back on deals that Jay-Z has made that's probably like that's gone wrong or gone right. What's the ratio like, right? I think he's been pretty successful in most of the ventures that he's been involved with, right? That's including drug dealing, right?
Can we pause on that for a minute? He openly talks about the fact that most rappers do, that have that background. But he openly talks about, to get started in the game, or not to get started, but I got started in the game as a drug dealer. And then now he's hip hop's first billionaire.
Yeah. Like Dre would have been if he didn't release the news ahead of time about Beats being bought by Apple. They lost a few hundred million just from there.
I bet he wishes that Samsung bought Beats by Dre instead of Apple.
Well, at that point, Samsung didn't need a Beats. Anyways, so I think Jay-Z's been successful. I think the only thing that may not have been as successful is Tidal.
Yeah.
Right? Like when his album 444 came out, it did well. It gave the platform a huge boost with Kanye and with Beyonce. But when people are not signing up and people are just are getting more comfortable and tighter with Spotify, you're gonna have to do something, right? Like there's no point of keep feeding a dead dog. So I think Tidal is probably one of the ones that wasn't the greatest.
Is it still running?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I still get emails.
Emails. Okay.
But I was all up for supporting a black dude like me, doing great moves. But in terms of has he sold out black people, I think it's very tricky. One is people who you always start revolutions are usually not the ones who finish them, right? Like think about the Arab Spring. The kids or the young men who started it are not the ones at the helm of the government, or are not becoming the actual political leaders of those countries, right? So that being said, it seems like Cap was Jay-Z used Cap as a business pawn, as a business opportunity. I think one of the reasons why he might be getting a lot of backlash is for his huge support for what Cap was doing. Right? It's saying like, like I'm not gonna do this because of Cap, blah blah blah. And he rapped about it all the time. However, now he's saying kneeling is done. Like we don't need to kneel anymore. But has everything been settled? Like he said that, and I think that I'm pretty sure he would have wished that he could have said it a slightly different way. Because for him, kneeling is done, right? Because he's getting a seat at the table to make changes or get rich. Regardless, he's not gonna do it if he's not gonna get rich, right? But that's the difference between I think what happened to Cap and what's happening to him. Cap was the other way. He was getting less rich by taking a stand or by taking a knee. Now with less and less black folks watching NFL, it could just be 1 or 2%, but that affects the bottom line for the NFL, especially if they're competing with sports like basketball and other things. Losing a portion or a percentage of your viewers, it hurts, right? So how do you deal with that, right? But I'm just very careful to say yes or say no or say I'm against it, because if Jay-Z gets some ownership stake within the NFL, whichever way it may be, he could potentially be in a situation to hire more black folks and make sure these things don't happen. But the only issue with that is how willing will you be when there's potential profit attached to the decisions that you're making, right? So those are some of the reasons I'm a little skeptical about the deal, but I'm also in appreciation of him as a businessman making that type of deal.
Fair. So My boy Stan was basically made a comment when we posted about this. He reminded us that Jay-Z said, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman," right? Which means like he's in it like to be a business, okay? Now, here's the other thing. When I look at this situation, personally, I don't think there should be any backlash, okay? Here's why I don't think there's any backlash. My wife once told me a quote. Or that you owe anything to. Jay-Z doesn't owe Kaepernick anything. He really doesn't, okay? Now, could he affect more change by having a seat at the table? Yes, most likely, right? Are people just going to stay angry and say, well, I'm taking a knee, that's it, versus a guy who, first of all, we've seen him make documentaries and be very vocal about social injustice. He made documentaries about, was it Khalif Brown, the guy who went to Rikers for 3 years without a trial. He executive produced other stuff to highlighting Trayvon Martin. So he's been talking about social injustice. This isn't like he's just coming out of the blue and saying, well, I'm going to jump on Kaepernick's coattails and I'm going to do this. The NFL asked him to play the Super Bowl. He said no. Like, was he playing chess versus checkers? Maybe. I don't know. But he's brought a lot of social injustice things to the forefront. Now, Cap, like you said, he started it. Fine. And people are like, oh, well, why didn't you bring Kaepernick along? Da, 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 da. He doesn't have to.
That I understand the idea behind it, but I'm not quite sure that I'm in full agreement.
Okay. Why?
The reason is the opportunity arose due to Cap's martyrdom.
Yeah.
I think like not paying respect to that makes his what do you call it, intentions sketchy.
But he did kind of do it because he's partnering with the Players Coalition, which was started because of the whole situation with Kaepernick.
Yeah, but without paying homage at all, without even
he
including...
did in raps. And he did by saying, I'm not doing the Super Bowl. What else do you want him to do? He said, I'm not playing the Super Bowl because of what happened to Cap.
But see, as a business move, that would have been the best thing. Okay. I'm not saying that what he's doing is wrong or not, but the way he dealt with it, especially at the press conference, made it seem that, like, at first we thought he was for us 100%, but the way he spoke about the situation, it just brought doubts with his it made it seem like he had ulterior motives as opposed to, oh, this is a business deal. But he's like, he was teetering both sides, not in a balanced way.
So if he takes ownership stake in the team and then kind of uses his influence to sign Kaepernick, is everyone going to stop talking?
People won't stop talking, but that would be great. But it's just using that unfortunate situation to gain something out of it. I think that's what some people might have. It felt like, whoa, I'm not sure this is what I thought this was gonna be. Like he's saying, oh, the kneeling is done, but black folks are still getting shot, right? Yeah. Black folks are still getting mistreated by police. The idea is the social injustice, but the way he's going about doing it just feels a little off. When you say something
like disingenuous. Yeah,
that's how it feels like. Like we know what he's like. We have a good idea what he's trying to do. There's the word that he used about the situation when he was questioned about it. We have not seen corporate Hove in effect in real life. We've heard Hove talk about it in his raps, but in terms of seeing it and him looking like he wasn't being genuine in front of the crowd, that lit up some red light. Like I saw it, I understood what he was trying to do, but in terms of PR and marketing and even his brand, I think he just made a mishap that it gave people something to latch onto. You know,
maybe.
like the idea sounds great, and that's why he and the NFL decided to do the press conference. Press conferences don't just happen out of nowhere; they are initialized by the people who have the news, right? And I just think that the way he approached it, when he was questioned about his motives, he didn't make people feel comfortable when people were looking to feel comfortable with it.
But at the same time, like I said, I still don't feel like, again, I'm kind of like you in the sense of like, it's not, I don't know how red it is, I don't know how wrong it is. It's more like when we see the actual product that we'll know if the deal was legit. But at the same time, I'm like, I still feel like he doesn't owe anybody anything. Like, he didn't have to have a press conference. He didn't have to do all this stuff. He could have just entered into a partnership and let people talk. You know what I mean? Like, he made it a point to have that press conference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I kind of laugh at the most is the fact that Kaepernick's ex-teammate there, Eric Reed, okay, who's been very vocal saying like, you know, I really don't like the way things went down with Jay-Z and doing all this and da-da-da-da. But he has a job. Do you know what I'm saying? And then there were people that he was going back and forth with people on Twitter, and they're like, yo, if you're really, really upset about what happened to Cap, why aren't you quitting? And he's like, nah, bro, I can't do it. You know what I mean? If it's like, so when we're speaking of disingenuous, people could look at that and say that's disingenuous too, because you were kneeling with Cap, he doesn't get a job, you get a job, and then when people say, well, are you standing with Cap or are you not? Oh, well, I am by taking a knee. And they're like, well, he doesn't have a job, why don't you? So I'm saying there's always angles to look at everything and then say, oh, well, how legit is this, or how do we know you're really legitimate with what you're saying?
So the way, based on what you just said, it just reminds me of how Haiti got its independence and how Haiti got to where it's at right now. Okay. When the black slaves got together and they got together to find a way to unify and take over the plantations and drive away all the slave masters, they did it as a crew, as a unit, right? And it was mainly the field slaves that got together, because the house ones wouldn't, because right, they don't want to lose their job. You know, life seems good, especially compared to the field ones, right? Because they get mistreated, they get whooped, they get all of those things. So once the black slaves got together, they took independence. Dessalines was like, yo, from now on, since we're free, we're all gonna work towards keeping our freedom, but also having a flourishing Haiti, right? However, there's others who were smarter. The house Negroes were like, nah, man, we were supposed to be the ones to take power if the whites are not there, because we're always second beneath them, and you guys were dead last. So they decided eventually that they weren't gonna follow into Dessalines, who was a dark black dude. They weren't gonna follow in his direction. So what they did, they set him up, they killed him, and they kept the power within their own families. Meanwhile, the rest of the country started to perish, and it's been like that ever since. Somebody decided to profit and benefit off of the backs of everybody else who's fighting for a bigger cause. So in that situation, what I'm saying is Jay-Z and Eric Reed, he said, are probably all wrong in the first place, right? But the problem is not the NFL. The problem wasn't the NFL. The Cap used the NFL as a platform to use his voice to bring attention to those certain things. Like he wanted the president and lawmakers and everybody else to come on board to start thinking deeply about these injustices that are happening. The NFL won't make changes. Like, the NFL won't make changes that will, like, maybe I'm talking too definitively, but I don't think the NFL has the power to make changes that will stop black people from getting killed on the street. I don't know if Jay-Z and the NFL can actually do that.
No, but but they are partnering with the Player Coalition, which provide a lot of resources for programs that bring awareness to that.
But there's the other reason why I think people are saying this is weird. They're bringing Jay-Z for community and like diversity stuff. Meanwhile, Cap was fired for standing up for those things. Isn't, like, people are saying that's kind of weird, almost hypocritical. So you're bringing an expert to help you with the situation. Meanwhile, the situation is still there and alive. It's like a lot of people are seeing this as just smoke screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, fair. You know, we shall see as the deal moves on and progresses, and we'll see where it goes. Right?
Yeah.
Now, on a lighter note, to talk about your song of the week and
I'm
the
in
artist,
love with a stripper.
and the artist. You know what's funny? Whenever people say "I'm in love," you don't know what the person's gonna say next, either with a stripper or with the coco. Right?
Kids will say the cocoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And we tell them that it's short for coconuts. That's what we do. That's what we do. So,
Or baking soda.
baking soda. It's like for a science experiment. Baking soda for a science experiment. So, T-Pain was on the Breakfast Club recently, and he was talking about the fact that he and his wife have threesomes. And they talked about how there's rules to it. He said that it all started because his wife saw some girl across the way at a party or the club, and they said one thing led to the next, and they had a threesome. And now it's like pretty much like a regular thing based on like feel, mood, whatever. So, in thinking about threesomes, first of all, is a threesome cheating?
Look, you can only cheat if you guys set the rules and the rules get broken
Fair.
by one party.
Fair.
Yeah. So
Fair.
if you're in a relationship and you both agree that, you know what, we can both have a threesome and together or whatever, and you decide the rules, and one of the rules is like you can't see that person without me, and you start doing that, then I would consider that to be cheating. Okay. You know, based on those rules, it'd be cheating. You know.
Okay.
But I think for me, nah, nigga. I'm not one of those dudes that fantasizes about, having another girl in bed with my wife, and that's not for me. I think life is complicated enough.
Yep.
That,
Yep.
Like, there's no ways someone's not gonna catch feelings, bad or good, and if they don't, I think that person probably shouldn't even be with you in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what I think.
Yeah.
It's funny when we decided that we're gonna talk about this. I was doing the graphs, right?
Yeah.
And my wife saw it, and I put one eggplant with 2 peaches. She's like, "What do you mean? Like, why do you ultimately assume that it's gonna be 2 girls?"
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, whoa, like I am not comfortable with that conversation at all. You know,
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's very simple. You want that, you can go over there. I'll move on. I like life to be simple.
Yeah.
You know?
In that situation, I think that was one of the things that I didn't get. I was like, there's a couple of factors. Number one, if your wife, or not your wife, just in general, if a wife is like, yo, let's invite her, does that not like feel like emasculating a little bit? It's like, oh, you're not enough. I'm not enough. You know what I mean? Like, I think of that, I'm like, yes, oh, you have to be secure with yourself. Okay, you ask the question, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, Okay, why? Oh, I don't know. I want to experiment. Well, let's experiment. You and I, like, what's going on, you know? So there's that involved. And then, like you said, the catching feelings part.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the rules was it can't be someone that's too familiar. But then someone might get burnt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, someone might get an STD or something. So that's another factor to play with. Because it's like, what are you going to do? Like, okay, so you're going to take this test. And then if your STI comes back clean, then we'll have a threesome next week.
So what I really wonder is this. What does T-Pain's wife do for a living? How much money does she bring in? I think it might be one of those situations where
She's bored.
no, it's like she would rather make sure that the money is safe. So she's controlling the situation. She's controlling who he gets in bed with, especially if he has tendencies, right?
Fair.
To do that. Like it's so
So
smart.
it's a power move.
It's a Jay-Z power move, man. Like
Okay.
a lot of women
Or it's Cardi B because she makes money moves.
yeah, but what's his name couldn't do that.
Who?
Like Offset, right? Like
I guess.
he got caught cheating, but he had to pay for that publicly, you know.
Fair.
And
Yeah.
anyways, Cardi B makes way more money than Offset.
Ooh, that's debatable. The Migos made a lot of money, man.
The Migos, everything is split 3 ways.
That's true.
Cardi B was the biggest star in 2018, son.
That's true.
The biggest
Very
thing.
True. Very true. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I saw the Migos commercial. I think it was Mountain Dew, Sprite, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was Quavo that was the main character who had lines. You know, but what's his Cardi B had her own Super Bowl commercial.
That's true.
A few of them.
That's true.
That's money, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Money moves.
but I just think that there's women, especially in third world countries, or women who are married to people with money. Okay, they would say, you do whatever you gotta do, just don't bring that stuff back home, right? Because they're guaranteeing themselves a husband that comes back. The money is there, the security is there. They'll find other ways to keep themselves happy.
So what if it's what about if money isn't a factor?
Yeah, then you know who you got in bed with. You know
Was that a pun?
Oh, maybe he married a stripper.
I don't know.
Maybe, right? Like
They make music based on life experiences.
Yo, isn't that how it goes?
He married a stripper, but he's in love with the bartender, and then he's sprung. This dude got issues. This dude got issues, man.
You know what? They have the threesome with the bartender and strippers, and
It's all making sense now.
all his songs were telling us this from the beginning.
And his new single is called Girlfriend. Girlfriend?
Girlfriend. But yeah, dude, maybe I'm insecure, but I'm very comfortable with my life being easy, knowing that my wife is here and my kids are here, and they're being taken care of, than thinking about my dick. Like, I'm just being straight with you. Like, I don't want that. I don't want that extra stress.
What about single in college?
Like, I would not consider that person to potentially becoming my wife. It'd be like, this is just what I'm doing, because that's what you do. That's what we did. I mean, that's what we do. You know, like, that's what we do. But anybody that I'm considering to be my wife, I don't want that. Maybe when I'm in my 50s, 60s, or I don't know. But right now, I'm good. Like, I don't want that in my life, man.
It's funny because when you sent me those graphs, I started talking to my wife about it, right? And when we started saying, she was like, my wife is special. She was like, so you want to have a threesome? Is that what's going on? And I'm like, no. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, listen, I don't think that you want to be sitting in the corner or whatever with me railing some chick, and I'm pretty sure I don't want to see you getting railed by some dude. I know that there's a market for it because there's porn that's directed to that, and I'm sure they do very well for themselves. But for me, nah, I'm good. No, thank you.
Yeah, like it's just awkward. Like maybe I wasn't brought up that way, right? Like to want to have that. And dude, way back in the day, I knew about a situation, about something like that, where this dude meets up this girl for the first time, or for the first few times, and next thing you know, they ran a train.
I said the same thing to my wife.
They ran a train, and then for some reason he decides to make her wife.
Mom. We talked about this last week, man.
He decides to make her wifey.
How do you wife someone got that?
Right?
Yo, dudes out here stupid.
But what's the difference between wifing her up after you had the threesome, or wifing having her as your wife and then have the threesome? What's the difference? Like your wife is for life. Whether you like it or not, whether you get divorced or not, it's like you are linked to that person forever. But the dudes that were involved in the train, they could comment the whole time. They'd be like, "Yo, remember that time we ran a train on your girl?" Oh,
but that's what I'm saying. And what are you gonna do? Get mad? What are you gonna do?
But
seriously,
what do you think dudes do? They do get mad.
But you can't get mad at that. You wifed a girl that you trained.
But you're talking from a rational place. If you were rational from the get-go, you wouldn't wife her up, right? Like, it makes absolutely no sense.
That is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard. Wifing someone that you ran a train on with your boys.
Look, what's the difference between that and having a threesome with your wife and some other dude or some other chick?
You ran a train. Are you having a threesome with one of your friends? Is that what you're like? Is that what
I'm
circumstance?
just saying.
No, but is that the circumstance that you're outlining? Because running a train with your boys and then wifing her is very different than being having a threesome or whatever with a stranger afterwards when you're married.
Oh man,
it's very different, man.
Yeah, this conversation is very muddy.
And again, by the way, if people want to have threesomes, by all means, do your thing. Yeah. I'm just saying, like situations like that, come on, now.
Like, dude, I remember a situation where I could have been in that situation with a girl I was dating back in the day, and when it got close to doing it, I pussied out because I had feelings for the girl I was with.
Yeah.
And for me thinking about just her being willing to do that, I'm like, so where am I really in this situation, in this relationship? Like, what am I? Like, I felt like less important than I was, and I realized that, which made me feel more important to myself. Right.
But that's the thing, right? Like a sexual act is as close as you can get to another person. Okay, but now you're splitting the pie.
Yeah.
Right, like giving it to other people, and one person, like let's say you're in a relationship, you would think that it's like fully going between those two partners, but now you have to divvy that up to another person.
Yeah, like you're not really you're not at, like, I feel like you, from my point of view, I don't think you're that committed to your spouse. Yeah. If you're willing to split it, like, that makes no sense.
I think the biggest thing in that too is seldom have, like, I guess maybe there's some communities that are like that, but seldom have I ever seen a situation where that I've heard that, you know, people are having threesomes and doing all that stuff, and that it ended well.
Look at Mel B. It ended up well for her. You don't know the situation with Mel B? So Mel B from the Spice Girls is married with this guy. She has
not anymore.
Whatever. Yeah. She has children with him, I think. Dude was prostituting his wife, man. Basically, he wanted her to have sex with all of, like, bunch of different people, his friends. He loved that. Made her do it, and that's what made her leave him.
Really?
Yeah. Great Mel B. Like, Scary Spice.
Scary Spice.
Yeah.
She was the dopest one.
Yeah, man.
Really?
Yeah, but she said, like,
was Eddie Murphy one of them?
I don't know, You're funny.
Well, they have a kid together.
Yeah, but I'm not referring to this to that husband. I'm talking about to her last.
I did not know. I know he abused her, like beating and stuff, but I didn't know that.
No, it was like it's very dark shit.
Goodness gracious,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, it was bad, man. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, that type of situation or these types of situation end up there.
Yeah.
You know, like how can I spend the rest of my life with someone knowing that, like, I saw you get, I was there when like you're doing what you would do with me with some other girl or some other, like, I can't even say other dude, like get that out of the question. I just couldn't, and just thinking about me doing that while she's watching, I'm like, I'd be like, yo, that's not for me. Like, that, you got issues you got to deal with, you deal with those. Like the relationship should be good enough that you don't need external intervention to make it work, to make the sex life work.
I mean, shit, you get freaky, but I mean, they're bringing someone else into the fray.
Yeah, like, even like it's like when I'm not even gonna say that. It's just
speak your mind, man.
No, man, it's cool. But basically, Jet, like, that to me. You, like, the girl might find someone that can be a good partner with, that she can go out there and do that with. I wouldn't be that one. But at the same time, I think it's because of the rules that are set. Going back to T-Pain, I don't think as human beings we're meant to be
facts.
You know, what do you call it? Monogamous.
Yeah.
I think we set the rules to keep each other safe one way or another, right? But I don't think we're meant to be monogamous. But because we set those rules, we live by those rules. And if they're broken, you feel like somebody deliberately disrespected and dishonored you, right?
Yeah.
But if the rules, like, if T-Pain and his wife set them out, like, yeah, you can have threesomes and these are the rules, then it's all good. I just grew up in the old school system and I just can't get out of it.
Fair.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, like, like the point that you made, like, yeah, human beings are not, like, they're not built to be monogamous just from a biological standpoint. Well, men are not supposed to be monogamous. Women are. From a biological standpoint. Physiological standpoint, I should say, because women want their seed to survive, versus men want their seed to be spread.
Yeah.
So it's two very, very different. But that's like a whole other scenario. But like you said, I think that is interesting that what you're saying with regards to the, you know, a power move in terms of initiating a threesome, because it's like, I got this money, I'm trying to keep this money, so let me do what I gotta do to keep this dude happy. I like I said, if my wife was like, hey, here's some chick, I would not be interested. First of all, I'd be like, I ain't falling for that shit.
Yeah, like, imagine
it'd be a trick.
Yeah, imagine you say yes, and you guys actually go through with it.
Yeah.
Right? She could always hold that shit over you.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not she changes her mind and be like, you know what, that was a mistake, we should have never done that.
Yeah.
I can't believe you went through with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So guys, that's a tip. If your wife says let's have a threesome, it's a trick.
It's a trick, yo.
It's a trick. Stay
away from it.
It's a trick for sure.
Yeah.
So I know, but I always tell myself, and I'm like, you know, I'm like in college and all that stuff, or whatever. Physically, sure, could probably do it, but mentally, emotionally, no, thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. No, thank you.
It'll be a forever thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Nah. No, thank you. No, thank you.
So that's the situation that happened with T-Pain. He said his wife saw the girl and invited her in.
Yeah.
Can a dude do that? Bim.